Buckle up, folks, because Scotland is on fire today, figuratively and almost literally. Falkirk streets have exploded into chaos, with protests spiraling into violent clashes that have the nation buzzing. And if that wasn't enough to grab your attention, J.K. Rowling has dropped a bombshell, tearing into former Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon with a scathing, expletive-laden takedown that's got everyone talking. This is raw, real, and absolutely unmissable. So, let's dive into the madness, but first, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and join the conversation for more explosive updates. Here's what's going down. Let's start in Falkirk, where the Claddin Hotel has become ground zero for a firestorm of anger. For years, this place has housed 50 to 80 asylum seekers, but tensions have been simmering like a pressure cooker ready to blow. The spark. A horrific crime that's left the community reeling. An asylum seeker staying at the hotel was convicted of raping a 15-year-old girl in broad daylight. Sentenced to 9 years in prison this past June, the case has ignited a fury that's been building for 18 months. Locals are fed up, and they're not staying quiet anymore. The streets outside the Claddin Hotel are now a battleground, with protesters, counter-demonstrators, and police locked in a tense standoff that's making headlines across Scotland. Picture this, on one side of the road, you've got the Stand Up to Racism and Unison groups, who showed up an hour early to stake their claim. They're waving banners, chanting slogans, and drawing a crowd of a couple hundred strong. Across the street, the anti-hotel protesters are gathering, their numbers growing by the minute. Groups like Save Our Future, Our Kids' Future have sprung up on Facebook, channeling the community's rage into a movement. The air is thick with shouts, accusations, and raw emotion. It's not just a protest. It's a clash of ideals, a community at its breaking point. I tried to catch up with Connor, one of the key voices in this protest, but he was deep in conversation, rallying the crowd. The energy here is electric, and you can feel the frustration pulsing through the streets. Over the next hour, more protesters are expected to flood in, and the tension is only going to climb. This isn't just about one hotel or one crime, it's about a community that feels ignored, pushed to the edge by a system they believe has failed them. So, how did we get here? Let's zoom out. Scotland's political landscape is a unique beast. The SNP, in power for nearly 2 decades, has leaned hard into a pro-refugee, pro-asylum stance. It's a narrative that's dominated the conversation, but cracks are starting to show. Across the country, locals are raising alarms about rising crime, sexual abuse cases, and the strain of asylum hotels in their towns. Falkirk isn't alone. This is a story playing out in communities far and wide. People are angry, and they're pointing fingers not just at each other but at. Now, let's shift gears to another bombshell shaking Scotland, J.K. Rowling's blistering attack on Nicola Sturgeon. The Harry Potter author didn't hold back, unleashing a profanity-laced tirade on her website that's got the internet in a frenzy. Timed perfectly with the launch of Sturgeon's memoir Frankly at the Edinburgh International Book Festival, Rowling's critique is a no-holds-barred demolition of the former First Minister's legacy. And trust me, she doesn't mince words. Rowling calls Sturgeon an AF wit and accuses her of causing real, lasting harm through her transgender policies. According to Rowling, Sturgeon fostered an environment where women were silenced, shamed, and persecuted for speaking out. She claims Sturgeon's luxury beliefs on self-identification for transgender women led to degrading and unsafe situations for women, stripping them of protections. Rowling even draws a jaw-dropping comparison, likening Sturgeon to Donald Trump for what she calls a shameless denial of reality, when it comes to the hard facts of transgender policy impacts. The author points to a Supreme Court ruling that shot down the Scottish government's interpretation of equality laws, arguing it gutted women's single-sex protections. Rowling says Sturgeon shows zero remorse, doubling down on self-ID policies despite what she claims are countless documented cases of predatory men exploiting them. One case stands out, Isla Bryson, a convicted double rapist whose gender identity sparked a firestorm. Rowling recounts a TV moment where Sturgeon, usually sharp as a tack, was left stammering when asked if Bryson was male or female. Rowling's verdict? Sturgeon looked like a complete quit. But Rowling doesn't stop there. In a wild literary twist, she compares Sturgeon to Bella Swan from Twilight, yes, that Bella. Both, she says, started as shy, bookish girls who became obsessed with a singular goal. For Bella, it's hot vampire romance with Edward Cullen. For Sturgeon, it's Scottish independence. Spoiler alert, Rowling says only one of them succeeded, and it wasn't Sturgeon. Rowling's attack goes beyond gender issues, digging into what she sees as glaring omissions in Sturgeon's memoir. Scotland's grim title as Europe's leader in drug-related deaths. Barely a mention, despite Rowling's personal connection, her husband once ran a methadone clinic. Missing WhatsApp messages from the pandemic? Crickets. Declining education standards, the Calmac ferry fiasco, and £500,000 in missing referendum funds? All conveniently absent. Rowling also challenges Sturgeon's rosy take on the 2014 independence campaign, calling it far from the pleasant picture painted in Frankly. This feud isn't new. Sturgeon recently addressed it on BBC Breakfast, referencing Rowling's infamous T-shirt branding her the destroyer of women's rights. Sturgeon's response? There are two sides to every story. She claims she's faced horrific abuse on the trans issue, more than on any other in her career.